No Amanda, no Sharon, no. But it is 7:01. It's the first time we started on time. Yeah. It's amazing that people just show up for these and continue to show up for these logic classes. They're really brainy and tough. And they get tougher. But you must be like secret logicians, debate lovers.
The wannabes. We're just the wannabes.
The wannabes.
The logic wannabes.
There's a wall of chairs between them.
I think we need wheels. People think that they're far away.
Right, this thing should hover.
Hovers.
Should everyone move up one tier?
Yeah. And maybe we'll just move those, and if they show up, then we can.
She's miming.
I said, I'm going to give you a question.
Right. The illusion.
That's hilarious. Like going down the stairs. Yeah.
All right. Maybe we can just turn off that fan before we start. Just the bottom here. It's amazing how the noise you get used to. You don't know until it turns off. That's like going to Gabriola, right? We don't realize the noise you get used to. So we'll start today. I'll lead the prayers today, and we're gonna sing the refuge part, Sangye Chudan, like a kirtan thing, like we do, and you guys all know the words, so we don't need to do call and response on that. And that will also be like our meditation. Because what is meditation? Other than practicing to be present in the moment, you know? Hopefully, not be distracted. And there's something beautiful about singing that you can, if you can notice it, you know, you can notice that you're probably not too distracted. And the heart starts to open. It's like anything. The more that you're the more that your intellect is out of the way, the better time that you have. You know, when you're dancing, when you're singing, and that's, I think great singing teachers end up being like that. That's why a great singing teacher, or even a dance teacher, or any kind of teacher that is a really good teacher that teaches someone even a skill, they become like a therapist if they're really good. Because if they're really good, they know it's not about the thing that you're trying to learn, right? It's about something else. And if and what stands between, anybody and them feeling like they're singing their heart out is just like some kind of remnant of a self that needs to sound like something or doesn't measure up to some idea, right? That's what, we got that disease here. right? In this Western world, we have that disease, this putting everything we do up against some kind of monitor or judge, right? Then we go to sing, and then there's this other voice, that's going, you don't sound right, you're singing flat, or people are hearing you, people want the sound of your voice, and and I think I'm relating this to music because I do it a lot, but I've also experienced that in doing trade stuff too. Is that it's like the quest is to, like, what do I need to do in order to experience this thing, and have me not there, right? And have like some kind of other presence take over, which is you too, but it's just a higher version of the self. And you can get that experience teaching kids. You can get that experience doing anything. You can get that experience doing, manual labor. You can get it washing dishes. Something can happen, and then suddenly you're present. And it's not about succeeding at what you're doing. So how are we going to let that go? How are we going to be happy in this fast world that is just offering us ways to be dissatisfied? How are we going to beat that? You have to recognize it. You have to see it for what it is. And logic can help. Logic you can prove yourself over and over again that the way that you're perceiving things is probably not the way that they are. I was stalling for a reason. Hey, Sharon, come on in.
Are we in the meditation?
No, we're just gonna start class. I was stalling for you. I figured you were coming.
Thank you.
I just started to yak. They were falling asleep. And thank you for that amazing incense. It's really cool.
Okay.
And they lit it up. It's very earthy.
Yeah. I found it to be very, very grounding. So.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna lead the prayers, but we're gonna sing the second part, like the Sangye Chudang and that will be our meditation. That will be like just the singing. So when we get to that part, just try and close your eyes and sing, and don't worry about anything. We'll just go until we're done, until we're satisfied. Sashi Puki Jokshin Meito Tramri Rabling Shi Nyandegen Padi Sangi Shinju Mite Uwar Gidro Kunanda Shingwa Chu Pasho Yamurata Mandala Kamnirite. Sangye churang soki chok nam la Dang chu bar du dak ni kyab su chi Daki jin yengi pe su nam ki Kola penchir sangye drupasho. So put something in front of you when you're singing. Close your eyes and put a holy object in front of you. Open your heart to them and sing to them. Sangye churang soki chok nam la Jang chu ba du dak ni kyab su chi Daki jin yengi pe su nam ki Yola penchir sangye drupasho Sangye churang soki chok nam la Jang chu ba du dak ni kyab su chi Daki yin yengi pe su nam ki Kola penchir sangye drupasho Sangye churang soki chok nam la Jang chu ba du dak ni kyab su chi Daki jin yengi pe su nam ki Kola penchir sangye drupasho Sangye churang soki chok nam la Jang chu bar du dak ni kyab su chi Daki jin yengi pe su nam ki Kola penchir sangye drupasho Sangye churang soki chok nam la Jang chu ba du dak ni kyab su chi Daki jin yengi pe su nam ki Kola penchir sangye drupasho Sangye churang soki chok nam la Jang chu ba du dak ni kyab su chi Daki jin yengi pe su nam ki Kola penchir sangye drupasho Sangye churang soki chok nam la Jang chu ba du dak ni kyab su chi Daki jin yengi pe su nam ki Kola penchir sangye drupasho Sangye churang soki chok Jang chu ba du dak ni kyab su chi Daki kneecap suchi, daki jin yangi pesunamki, trola penchir sange drupash. Churan soki chokna, Janchu badu dakni kapsuchi, Daki jinyengi pesunaki, Gola penchir sange drupashi, Sange chudan di chokna. Janchu badu dakni kapsuchi, Daki jinyengi pesunaki, Gola penchir sange drupashi. So now let's just sit and be fulfilled by the sound of the things going by in the street. Drink it with your ears. Feel it in your body. Surge after surge. Could be another cause for bliss through your whole inner body. What if this was enough right now? What if we could just relax forget about something that may seem to be, needs to be thought about. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's just the way that you do it. The perfect expression of your being is how you do it, how you hear it, how you see. The world is so rich, so abundant. We get to have panic attacks, happy moments, joyful relationships, the miracle of irritating relationships. It's no different than these sounds we're hearing. When you're ready, we can open our eyes if they're closed. I'll hang up my guitar. Maybe you need a stretch. Maybe you need to stretch your legs out. Or, I don't know. So class 5 is a really big class. I have no intention whatsoever of getting all the way through. Hoping to get halfway. So did anybody think about 3-part statements last week? Yeah. Did you make any 3-part statements?
No.
That's okay. Because according to Tibetan Buddhism, we actually think like that all the time. We're actually always logicking things out. The way, and we just don't realize we're doing it. And because we mainly don't understand the rules of engagement, like we mainly don't understand that what was it? The three aspects of the statement, or a logical statement. The three all need to be there for a reason to be true, because we don't really understand that. Then I don't know. We think all kinds of crazy things. Like I really didn't like that one that they started saying, consider work, it is the cause for money, because I get a paycheck from my boss. That one's hard. That one's a hard one. And but I took it to task. I took it on a meditation cushion and I worked it over and over again. It was. If you remember last class, we talked about trying to find that moment when the sperm touches the egg. How do you find that findable moment? Can we say there's an objective moment it is not subjective, that exists where the sperm actually touches the egg in an ultimate sense? Or can we find the moment where the seed stops being a seed and becomes a sprout? I took that to my meditation like crazy for a good, it was a few weeks anyway. And I realized that I had a thing about it where I realized that, and I used checks, I used money, like, does the pen ever touch the paper and the check? And I went all kinds of ways, I thought, I put to like, what is the value of money, right? I mean, what is that piece of paper that we call $5, $20, $100, and what gives it that value? And what made something true? What made something a proof? And it would have to work every time. It would have to work out every time. And when I had this thing about that, money can't ultimately come from working hours. It can't ultimately come that way. And that is, and if you met, it's one thing to get that on an intellectual level in class and sort of understand that, but we're still pulled into thinking that way because our world functions that way. And of course, it's fine. Go to work and get your money. That's the way that's the way it's happening. That's the way that the money is apparently coming through. But if you can really think about it hard enough and on your meditation cushion, have a moment, it doesn't have to be in your meditation cushion. It can happen in the middle of the day, really. And you just have this thing where like, oh, it's actually impossible. It's actually impossible for me to be getting any kind of like a sense of abundance ultimately through work, and outside of my karma, it's impossible for that to be happening outside of me causing it karmically. And then that can just change your whole world. That can just change the way that you go into your job. And you can go into your job and kind of like put the money thing aside, because the money is just going to come or it's not going to come. And then you serve. You go in there and you serve. You find ways to serve at work, and you let yourself go into service at work. And then you become a blessing unto yourself, where you're having that mindset but you also become very pleasant to be around, and you become a blessing to the workspace because you have gained an understanding about how the things are coming together in the world that is probably very different than the people around you. And they may not understand that, so you have to kind of keep it quiet without preaching about it. But when they see a glow or a happiness that seems not relevant to successes or failures in your personal life or work life or whatever, then they'll become suspicious about what it is that you're doing. Maybe they'll ask you if it works out well. They may ask you what it is that you're doing. But it all starts with logic. And really, it all starts with really getting what samsara is. Where is samsara coming from? What's the point of even wanting to get out? Can we get out of samsara? Is it even possible to get out of samsara? Certainly not without knowing what causes it. If we don't know what causes samsara, there's no way we're getting out of it. Tonight we're talking about subjects and objects. Say Yul Chen.
Yul
Yul Chen. Yul Chen. Yul means objects, and Chen means possessing. So it's like Yul is an object, and then Yul Chen, that which possesses an object. So subjects and objects. So there's the object, and then there's that which possesses an object, which is a subject. The subject possesses an object. I found this confusing for years because when I was, to me, in elementary school, like a subject was a subject. We took a subject. English was a subject. So it's still to this day, I get the subject thing. To me, subject means the thing you're looking at, not the looker. So I wrestled with that for a long time. Subjective. But talking about the subject-object is important for the study of how we perceive things, which is the doorway to understand how things are void of self-nature. Because it's all wrapped up in that. It's all wrapped up in that. Things being void of self-nature. And it's great fun if you understand it. You could be sitting in a room and really getting that if you've got virtue going off, the sound that you're hearing is blissful. And if you don't have virtue going off, the same sound could instantly change into being irritating. And then it becomes a wonderful reality that you just understand. And then there's a purpose. There's a purpose to everything that's happening in your life, because any moment that you have the luxury to experience, is so full of possibility. Like you read these some of these books. These great lamas, they write these commentaries and books, and they describe. Yes, I went into samadhi and I visited this realm, and this is the way it looked, and these are the beings that were there. And what's beautiful about all that is gaining the understanding that they never really went anywhere. So the people that are around you in your life, they can appear like that. They can appear like your entourage of divine beings that are teaching you, or that appear to be being taught by you, or and that you're like this emanation, and you're perceiving your divine paradise. And any single moment can change into that. At any time. It's not any different than that. There's no other reality than that. It's not like you have to become something that you're not, and then conjure up these ideas and develop a reality in your meditation, and have some kind of fantastical idea, and then paint your reality with some forced thing. It's more like you just gain the power to understand what it is that you're looking at. Because you're always looking at your mind. There isn't a moment that's gone by that you haven't been looking at your mind. What mind? Where is that thing? We're all filling this space with all our karmas, We're all seeing each other in a different way. We're all having this beautiful experience. Which may or may not seem beautiful to one person or to the next. And there's beauty in that. And if you can gain that, then you drop the whole judging others thing. Which is also the product of logic. Because then you can just throw it out. Because you don't really know. You don't really know what they are to themselves and what motivates their own actions. All you can say is how you perceive it. How you possess the object. That's a subject. That which possesses an object is a subject. And if we study it enough, we study subject-object enough, we can eliminate all kinds of bad ideas about emptiness. Like the idea that the mind sinks into the object and they become one. Or like you turn into emptiness. Which is not true. You can't become an unchanging thing. What is the definition of an object? We've kind of had it, in a way. It just hasn't been called object. And it's like a synonym. It'll be a synonym. What's the definition of any existing thing?
Made thing.
Pardon?
Made thing.
A made thing. Anything that exists is a made thing? So emptiness is made. Good answer. What is the definition of any existing thing?
Something you see?
Anything you see. Anything I see, even if I'm drunk.
No, valid perception.
Anything, right, anything which is perceived by a valid perception. is like an existing thing, right? That's also the definition of an object. Anything which is perceived by a valid perception is an object. So that's so we get some synonyms for object, right? Like 3 synonyms for object, or yul in Tibetan. All the objects in the world, that's object. Existing thing, object. Anything that you can perceive with your mind, object. So it's another word for anything that exists, or everything that exists is object. So valid perception, how many of those did you have today, do you think? 1, Christine says. It was the donut. The donut was real. Christine doesn't eat donuts.
And the donut hole?
How many valid perceptions do you think you had today?
64 times the number of seconds.
Ooh!
Or the number
So
of
you're saying
moments.
lots.
64 times the number of moments.
So you're making the claim that you've had lots of valid perceptions today, Sharon?
Yeah.
So Sharon, mighty Sharon, is claiming that he's had lots of valid perceptions today. Anyone want to argue with Sharon about that? Everyone agrees with Sharon that Sharon has had many, many valid perceptions today?
Yes, you have.
It's true, he has. 99.999% of our perceptions are valid perceptions. They're valid, sure. Sure they are. What's an invalid perception? What's an example of an invalid perception? Yeah, you're drunk or insane, right? Or like affliction, heavily, heavily like, I don't know, you have some kind of like attack of paranoia, you think everyone's out to get you. It's an invalid, right? Like Kismet, who's gone, was having an invalid perception that he should be afraid of something in this house, right? As he hid for 3 days. He was having a mental affliction attack for 3 days. Before I pulled him out of there with kindness. I lured him out with kindness. But how many correct perceptions? See, there's a difference between valid and correct. How many correct perceptions did we all have today? 0. Maybe. What if this whole room is just like chock full of arias? Then how many correct perceptions have we had? Many. A whole pile of them. Yeah. If you remember in the Jeta Vyeshe, after you see emptiness directly, what's one of the things that you understand about the way you see things?
You've never seen correct.
Never had one. I haven't had a correct perception since ever. Unless you're like a reincarnated, unless you've been an Arya in another lifetime. Correct means, does the nature of the object correspond to what you believe in? Does the nature of the object correspond to what you believe in, right? And if you understand that this thing isn't coming from its own side, but it appears to be what it is, because of, whatever, your karmic projections, then that's correct. You're having a valid, correct perception. And if you don't, you're having a valid perception. You just don't get the correct part. So, you could argue, you could say, if you really got that intellectually, you could say you were having a correct perception of it. It's just not natural. If we debated about this object enough in class, you'd be having a correct perception about this object, even if you hadn't seen it directly yet. But it's the same as what I was talking about in. You can intellectually understand that money doesn't ultimately come from work, and you can intellectually understand that this is empty of self of nature. But when you see emptiness directly, it's just different. You just know that. You just know that. And not only do you know that, it's impossible to be unconvinced. There is no, there's no amount of nobody, whoever it was, the Dalai Lama, whoever it was on the planet, could come to you and try and tell you that this had self-nature. You just be like, you just know that it doesn't have self-nature. So, because an object is a synonym for all existing things, that must mean that objects can also be divided into two categories. And what two categories are those? All you darn heads. Changing things and unchanging things. Yeah. Give me some synonyms for changing thing. Working thing, yeah. Produced thing, working thing, functioning thing, all the same. So now, all working things can be divided into 5 categories. The mighty 5 categories. What do you think those are? The famous 5. The 5 heaps. Yeah. So this is very cool, because now we've divided and subdivided. Now we're saying, okay, all changing things can be divided into 5 different divisions. And those 5 different divisions are the 5 heaps. Pungpo na. So na means 5, and pungpo means heaps or piles. In Sanskrit, it's skanda, the 5 skandhas. So think of them as like big piles. There's many parts to these piles, right? Each one of these heaps is a group including many objects. So in this presentation, we can divide all existing things into 5 heaps. And these 5 heaps are all the things that make us up, our experience up. And the reason that they do these things is because if you can divide them into 5 heaps, then you can go looking in 5 different places for yourself. You can say, okay, where am I? Where am I going to find the self-existent me? Will it be in this room, that like in these 5 rooms? That's the only choices I have. And if you come up empty-handed in all those 5 places that you look, then I guess you don't have any self-nature. That's very cool. The first one is suk, which means what? The heap of form. Yeah, heap of form. Or physical matter. Generally, it refers to the things that you can see with your eyeball, shapes and colors, things like that. The things in the world that you can see, including yourself, your body. And there are 2 types of physical matter. There are 2 types of physical matter. Okay, let's. What do you think they are? If we're talking about this is all existing things, and we're talking about this is all physical matter in our experience. How could they break them up? What 2 categories could they be?
Can be perceived directly and then indirectly.
I like that, but that's not what they want. I do like it though. Outer physical and inner physical. Yeah, outer physical world and inner physical world, reality, right? So what makes outside and what makes inside? And here is where it gets tricky with the schools, especially, okay? So we're in the debate class, we're in logic. So did this get started?
Yeah.
Okay. So that means it'll end?
Yes.
There's, it's going to start and stay and end. In the sutras, or the Abhidharma, there's like, okay, what is outside of us and what's inside of us? And they have there's a big debate about it because, well, it's not really the point of this class, but at what point, right, depending on, my hair's very short, right, But at what point does your hair become non-sentient, right? Like, or your fingernails, or the edge of your fingernails, right? At what point, if someone came up to you and was sort of feeling your hair, and it got closer and closer, at what point would you be able to know that someone was touching your hair or feeling your hair, or your fingernails? Like, well, mine are short because I play guitar, but maybe some people with longer nails could like touch the top, or somebody else could touch the end of their nail and say, well, can you feel that? Do you know that someone's touching you? So, but if someone, like if Sharon stamps his foot, do I feel like I'm being kicked? Like if he hits the floor. So they kind of make, the Abhidharma Kosha people, the sutras, they make that distinction. As soon as you're far enough away from yourself so that you can't feel it with sensation, then that's outside. And everything else is inner. That's inner and outer, physical. And the outer form was just everything else, right? These walls, the streets, Vancouver, the world, right? And it's very cool to think about this, it's easy to get in deep meditation, and if you meditate a lot, it's easy to kind of accept this and embrace this, but the walls of this room are also part of your reality. And so they say it's part of your form. It's part of your form, because how do you separate your experience of the wall with your reality? And if it's made of physical stuff, then it's part of your physical reality. And it's also, I like it in a way because it's also how we identify ourselves. I'm John. I have a male body. I live in Vancouver. I was born in Nova Scotia, right? And my sense of myself is really a lot wrapped up in physicality, location, the people in your world, the things you do, the things you touch. And then you go out into nature, and then you're relating to yourself in a different way. And it's relative to a physical environment. It's quieter. You're in nature. The air is different. And suddenly that's a whole other experience. So, and that's your form. You're just like your form has changed. I just changed my form. I went out to UBC forest. My form just changed.
So that's a different school that thinks that? I lost track.
Well, it's like a different, like if a Madhyamika Prasangika, like up higher, they would really get down to debating, the end of your fingernails as being the borderline. Whereas like Abhidharma Kosha, they accept that, just past your finger, or just at the end of your fingernails, and anything past that would be like your outer. Where Madhyamika Prasangika would be like, okay, well, if we're going to talk about things being made of parts and all things being labeled, and that there is no ultimate edge to anything, then how can we say that? How can we say then that there's anything ultimately inner or outer, like that?
So they don't even divide it.
Yeah, so they don't go that far, because in those schools, something ultimate is something that performs a function, and that's good enough for them. That's as far as they go. So, which is great. That's a perfectly functioning viewpoint, and it works for lots of people. Hi, Carol.
Hi. I'm just wondering, so is that wall part of me because I'm perceiving it? Is that part of my physical?
They would
Because
say
my eyes
that
aren't sensorily
they would say
perceiving
they would say this wall is part of your form body, is part of your form. That's what they would say.
it. I don't have to divide into outer physical or inner physical for this?
Well, you don't have to. It's just a way of like saying, like, they would say this is part of your outer physical reality, and the tip of your finger is part of your inner physical reality, and all like inner eye, consciousness, lungs, heart, liver is all also inner. It's all inner, and right up to the very, very edge of your body. And there are people that can feel auras. They would say, no. Let's don't even talk about that. I mean, I can feel like 3 feet away from me if someone comes close to me. That's part of my inner world. Like, so you can argue there is no, ultimate answer. This is the beauty of. I think that I don't know. My favorite thing about Buddhism, because they totally accept that you can't really say. but here's how to think in order to help us change our karma so that we can then really understand why you can't really say. How do you make you can't really say work for you? In other words, you can never point to a findable thing and say, that's what that is ultimately. And that's how a so-called Buddhist can walk into a Christian environment and be totally at home and think, yeah, awesome. Or any environment and saying, because they're looking for the truth. They're not looking for an ism. They're looking for like the way things are happening. Yeah. But we need words. We need words, so we have to use them until we don't need them. Yes, we can turn the light on. There's maybe, Mariska, that one behind you can pull. And this one here. Yeah, I was getting a little dim, right? It's better. Yeah, nice. See, our form just changed.
Is it fair to bring up the story, when if there's no one in the forest, there's no sound when the tree falls down?
Is it fair?
Is it fair to bring that up as part of what we're talking about?
Well, you can say that in Tibetan Buddhism, they don't really go for that story because they say that there's somebody perceiving it, that there's a being perceiving it, and that's how it exists. So it's like for maybe us in this room, there ain't no tree falling in no forest, but there's a being perceiving it, so that's how it exists. That's a kind of a famous argument about, and I think the typical scriptural example that they use is, what about the dust, right? What about the dust on the furthest ring of, whatever, Saturn, or how do you even know? You can't say that's there. There's no one seeing it. But no, well, there are beings that see it. There's an enlightened being see it, and so it exists. So it's being perceived. That's the beauty of talking about things like that, like the pen, right? If we all walk out of the room, is the pen still there? And it's a great one. It's a great one because it defies how we believe that objects exist. Is there even an object there? And then the mind goes, well, wait a minute. I mean, does the raw data disappear? Does everything just disappear?
It's
right?
Logic again.
It's logic. It comes down to logic. Yeah, it's beautiful. It can just cut through.
And we're sort of having the same perception.
What do you mean, like?
Okay, so you're saying that the tree does fall.
If it does happen, and there's a being that perceives it, right? Is that what you mean?
So the tree is falling regardless. I'm trying to get my head around the perception piece.
Yeah. So it's so.
Because you just said if
tricky
you all leave the room,
yeah,
does that thing exist? And I would have said no, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. I'm saying that it doesn't exist the way that we think it exists.
But you're saying it still exists?
Could. It might. Like this, this object here.
Then there's some common ground then between
my perception and your perception, if it could exist.
Definitely, there's common ground between our perceptions. There's, like we're not going to see the same object the same way.
But
Because
the object exists, you say?
The object exists relatively, in a relative way.
We can deduce it by logic, even if we aren't there. And if we weren't there for an event, we can deduce it by logic.
See, what's important? What's important is to understand that it stops being like this is what looks to me like a pencil crayon. It stops being a pencil crayon as soon as no one's looking at it as a pencil crayon. But it looks like it's a pencil crayon. It looks like there's some pencil crayonness in the object. It appears like that. And so, if I put this object on the table, we all walked out of the room, and it was just laying here without anybody looking at it, would the pencil crayon be here? No, it wouldn't.
They would have to have the same terms of reference and the common ground of understanding what our language is referring to and understanding it, so that we can work with it to an understanding, a logical understanding.
Sure, you mean so that we can like go on with our lives and not. You mean like that? So we all have. See, you mean we all have the karma of agreeing that this is a pencil crayon? Is that what you mean?
We can.
Right.
And certainly to have a discussion, we need to. In order to be able to have a logical discussion, we'd have to have a joint karma to be able to have a recognition of those terms of reference, that we can discuss it.
Well, sure.
And
There's nothing outside of that. There's nothing outside of that. Relative reality. Like it would be great if there was someone in this room that disagreed and decided that this wasn't. Then we could.
I just have a thought. So if all of us, including you, were to take a picture of that pencil crayon,
Yeah.
exactly from where we're all sitting,
Yeah.
and then we were to put those pictures together, then we could argue that there's no common ground there at all, because we're not looking at the same thing. Does that?
Well, I think there's a few different ideas of common ground floating around the room here right now. Yeah. Right? Because, yeah, you know what I mean?
if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Well,
If it serves the function of a duck.
well, it's like we could all understand intellectually that we may agree that this seems to be a pencil crayon. We may agree on that, and then we may. That's one kind of karma to have. But then it's another kind of karma to be able to be in a room where they're all saying, yeah, but we're not seeing the same pencil crayon. That's karma within itself, and then it's all happening so quickly, like it could begin to irritate you in a jiffy. Or it could be like, wow. See, if it's entirely possible for someone to be in this room and look at that object, and we could be discussing the lack of self-nature to it, and they could pop right into the direct perception of emptiness. And that would be a karma. That was probably not the same as the other people in the room. And it's all relates to subject-object and the object that the subject perceives. What gets people mainly is that we just want there to be something. We just want there to be something that exists objectively. And if you look, you'll never find it. You know, and even breaking this down to its like atoms and down to the particles and everything like that, you can just logically take it right down to it, and there's a whole universe in this little object, right? And it's like, but how is that useful? How is it useful to understand that this object stops being a pencil crayon as soon as we walk out of the room and no one's seeing it as a pencil crayon? I mean, you could say we all have a similar sort of karma to be, voluntarily sitting here and going through these kinds of things bravely, right? Bravely trying to rattle the cage, of samsara, bravely trying to because how else? How else can we completely change the way that we experience reality unless we rattle the cage of how we see it just normally every day, and all the things that we assume about ourselves and about everybody else. So that's why we're talking about the 5 heaps, because the same little dissection that we're using about this pencil crayon, if that's what it is, can also be applied to every single heap that we're about to go over. And so it's easy with the pencil crayon. It's harder when you start talking about my feelings, my emotions, right? Remember, like the John from last class? The John. The concept, John. That is so, the John. It's so easy to believe as being like this objective thing somehow. Does that make sense, Carol?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to understand this.
Yeah.
So everything I see is a part of me, and everything is a perception coming from my karma.
Which is the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does that fit in with what's going on for you? Because I'm part of your projection.
Yeah.
And same for everybody else. So how is that sort of everything merging together? I don't get that.
It's all made possible. It's all made possible because...
How do I know that you exist outside of my perception? Because once I walk out of here, you no longer exist, except in my memory.
Well,
are you really existing?
Well, you don't really know that.
Yeah, I don't.
You can really only logic that. And it's like... You can logic it this way. I must exist separate from you in this, because here, we are two. Okay, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 sentient beings. We're all occupying this room, and we're all having different experiences. If I existed as you, then all my realizations would be yours. There would be no way of separating our minds. We would occupy the same mind. And it would be like anything I experienced, you would experience, and vice versa. Whether we were in the same room or not.
Okay. So that's
right?
making me distinct And how
right?
are you a projection?
And then how, and that's what makes it possible. Because I exist separately from you in that way, that's what makes it possible for you to be forced to perceive me just the way that you do, because I'm not you. If we were the same thing, you couldn't even actually see me. If me and you were one thing, it would be impossible for you to actually even perceive me.
No, you're a projection.
I'm a projection. I exist as an ever-changing rapid succession of karmic events, according to you. The way that you perceive me, and the way that I perceive you is the same way. Is the same. And the way that I perceive myself is the same. So, as Sharon said, 65 per finger snap, karmic perceptions of my whole reality. We're going to say them. Form, feelings, discrimination, consciousness, all other factors, all happening at once. And how I perceive Tarjit means a lot about me. Like if I see Tarjit and I see Tarjit look like a suffering person who there's no hope for Tarjit. She's just like everybody else. All these other suffering people. All these other suffering, hopeless people that don't understand. That wouldn't be about you. That would be about me. That would be me being forced to see that reality. If I see Tarjit as, okay, here's Tarjit, amazing being, comes to class, mother of 2 children, enlightenment just around the corner. That says something about me. How could I say that? How could I even perceive that? Because if I didn't have pencil crayon in my mind, how could I see pencil crayon? If I didn't have the reality that someone could be a totally enlightened being, and there's a karmic process for that happening, how could I look at Tarjit or anybody, Leonardo, anyone, and have that valid perception? Because it's being forced upon me by my karma. In the same way that when you look at me, Tarjit looks at me, her karma, like your karma, is going to dictate to you how you see me. Teacher, good teacher, bad teacher, enlightened being, normal person. And it will change. It will change from day to day, moment to moment. And that won't say anything about me. That will tell you about you. Because if you're looking around in your world, you don't see paradise. That's not the world's problem. It's your problem. If you're looking around in the world and you see paradise, that's also not paradise's problem. It's your problem. It's your success. Whatever you want, how you want to put it. You want to speak in terms of success and failure. Because there is no way to measure mind. Right? It's limitless. You can fit every mind in the universe in this room. No problem. You probably all are in this room. No problem. Just at any point in time, how do we relate to our consciousness? How do we, at what level of our mind do we, quote unquote, come from and perceive ourselves? So, on one level, I could perceive myself as human being, and just like John, thinking about this, thinking about that, and that's what I am. Or I could relate to this limitless mind and have like my seat of reality, my seat of the reality that I know, that I perceive as my limitless mind. And this thing waving its arms around is just a part of my reality. That's part of my form reality, part of my heap of form that I'm using to get a point across, or to drive somewhere or whatever. And that it's totally impermanent. It's gonna, and it's just part of my heaps. It's very, 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 very slippery, because it's so hard to hold that line, because it's there's air there. There's air to breathe there that we're not used to breathing. You don't want to get the bends, right? It's a whole different way of breathing, a whole different way of like the air that you breathe when you're aware of these things is just a whole different environment. So, if you understand that, and you see people and you're judging them, or you see them suffering, you don't understand why they're suffering, and then you have some work to do. You have some work to do. Because there's nothing like a bit of suffering to turn you into a Buddha. We need it. Absolutely need it. The Buddha knows that. The Buddha knows that. It's like the Buddha sees you suffer. But they can't suffer. But they can see you suffer. And they can see that suffering is making you into like them. But they also see you don't understand that yet. They don't understand that their suffering is making them enlightened. They just want it to stop. Because if there was no difference between you and anyone else, then that would mean we'd all either be enlightened or never be enlightened. It would be like, as soon as, there couldn't be an enlightened being without you being enlightened. We'd all have to share the same mind. There'd be nothing to do. So it's hard, How do you divide between my body and my environment, or my mind and my environment, right? It's, it's really subtle. It's subtle. And then that's what we do. We talk about it till we break through, and then we can become comfortable with the two truths existing at once. Deceptive reality and ultimate reality existing in the same place. Perfect marriage. Karma, emptiness. Deceptive reality, ultimate reality. Perfect marriage. What makes it all possible? Can I go on? Should I go on? So that was the heap. Okay, heap of form. Then the second heap. Someone say it. Consciousness. Well, we're going to get to that one later, but it's typically an order that they say them in. Second, feeling. Yeah, feelings, before the heap of feeling. So this is a mental part of us. It gets its own heap. Because it deserves its own heap because this heap of feeling, gets us into trouble. Feeling good, feeling bad, feeling neutral. Not saying that feeling is bad. Feeling isn't in itself bad at all. We want to feel good. We want to be able to say, "Oh, I don't like that." That's discrimination actually. But feeling, it's simply defined as the ability to experience objects in a good, bad, or neutral way, right? So ideally, we'd like to feel good about many objects. And there's levels of this, right? If we want to get a little bit fancy, there's good physical feeling, good mental feeling, bad physical feeling, bad mental, and then neutral physical feeling. That's 5, and then we could say, okay, there's 18. If you want to get really fancy, feeling good about what I see, feeling good about what but just not really. We don't really need to go there. Just to understand that there's a part of us that is feeling itself. Because we have to figure out, this is our whole thing. How do we feel good? How do we have, without the cause being an object? This is the whole game we're playing here. This is what Mr. Gold doesn't want us to understand. Anyone ever seen the movie Revolver? Mr. Gold? No, anyways. It's this great movie. And Mr. Gold is like the ego in the movie. And the ego doesn't want us to understand that really we want to figure out how to have awesome feelings without them being caused by an object. The third heap: form, feelings, and discrimination. This is good. This is bad. I like this. I like that. I like him. I don't like her. This is mine. This is yours. Second big troublemaker. And again, it's not discrimination itself that's trouble. A Buddha discriminate. I like my paradise. I don't want to ever experience hell again. I like my paradise. That's a turn of the mind, which is discrimination. This is like the bad discrimination, saying, this is mine, this is yours, and I want yours. Okay? If you say, this is mine, this is yours, and I'm going to collect good karma with mine, and I'm going to use the perception of yours to, collect good karma. I'm going to rejoice. That's good discrimination. That's healthy discrimination. It's the discrimination that's steeped in ignorance that gets us in trouble, not discrimination itself. That would be like saying that desire is bad, which it isn't. It isn't. Snickers are only bad, when you eat 10. I haven't reached 10 yet. Okay, then there's Duje. There's Duje. Sorry, Tibetan. Dushe, discrimination. And Duje was this one, I'll say in a second. Form, did I say form? So great. Second one, Tsorwa, is feeling. 3, Dushe, discrimination. Duje, all other factors. This is cool. All other factors. What do you mean all other factors as part of my heaps? Everything that's not in the other 4 parts. We haven't gotten to conscious yet. So what's in everything that's not in the other heaps? Let's take Sharon. Right? Sharon's body is heap number 1. Sharon's feelings, heap number 2. The ability for Sharon to discriminate, heap number 3. We haven't done 5 yet, but his consciousness, his awareness is heap number 5. But what about, remember there was in what was it? In physical, there was physical things, mental things, and things that were neither physical nor mental, like a concept, right? That's Sharon. The idea Sharon would be in, because like Sharon's not just his body. He's not just his feelings. He's not his discrimination. He's not just his awareness. And we all have a concept of Sharon. Just look at him. This beautiful man, Sharon. You know? Isn't it tricky to look at Sharon? Isn't it tricky to really, really look at Sharon and understand we don't really know what he sees when he looks in the mirror? Isn't it, do you feel it? Do you breathe that air? It's beautiful. It's beautiful to understand that, you know, if I see Sharon as this beautiful man, well, I'm lucky. I mean, I did some virtue. I did some virtue. I could have so much virtue that Sharon could decide that I'm being irritating and slap me across the face and say, "That's enough, John. You're embarrassing me." Mm-hmm. And if my virtue was strong enough, I'd be like, "Oh, Sharon, thank you. You bless me. In case she marries my mother, she'd do it again." Like it's like that. It's like that. So if you just ram these ideas in enough, then you'll get to like, for even the most self-existent appearing objects, like Serena. You know? Beautiful little Serena. You know? It's like, what the heck does she see? You know? What the heck world does she live in? What does she see when she looks at me? Right? What does she see when she looks in the mirror? Don't know. Not a Buddha yet. You know? And isn't that beautiful air to breathe? Isn't it there just like so much more space all of a sudden in the world when you have that thought? You see? And that's like all other factors. That's all the other stuff. Because Shireen is not her form, she's not her feelings. She has form, she has feelings, she has discrimination, she has awareness, but she's not any one of those things. And all other factors, well, she's something else. And thank God I don't know what it is. Wouldn't that be boring? Unless of course, you're a Buddha. And it wouldn't be boring, because then you'd just be like constantly drifting in that beautiful air. Sorry, Sean, if that was embarrassing.
Sorry.
You held fast, it was good. You stayed strong. So basically, that's what it means. All the things that don't make it into the other 4 categories is all other factors. And then we have 5, Namshe, your awareness. Your awareness, your consciousness. Not the brain. What would the brain be in?
Physical.
Form, yeah. Inner. You know, this is beautiful, the whole awareness mind thing. I mean, it's just a delicious subject. You never get tired of that. I mean, what the heck is that thing? Right? Where is it? Where is it? Where did it come from? This heap is the general thing, like that you know things, that you're aware of. You have this awareness. And there's 6 different types of consciousnesses that are connected to 6 different things. What are they? Senses, yeah, which are hearing, smelling, tasting,
See.
seeing, touching, and then one more. Thinking, the mind, yeah. The mind is just so darn exciting. You know, it's such, I mean, it's the, I don't know. Sure. You know, I don't know. God, spend billions of dollars, you know, building satellites and going out into the furthest reaches of outer space, but, you know, give me the mind any day, right? Why are we so afraid to sit down and explore the most amazing inner mysteries that make everything happen, which is the mind? We, you know, so many of us are so involved in doing just the opposite. You know, and it's just where all the answers are. The beautiful mystery of the mind. All the answers are there, you know. And when you find it, you don't need to know anything else. So that was a rough outline of all the objects that exist. Those 5 heaps, they say those are all the objects, that those would include all the objects that exist in our experience. Maybe we'll quickly go dip into subject. The definition of a subject. Any existing thing which engages in an object is a definition of a subject.
If you repeat that, please.
Yeah. Any existing thing which engages in an object is a definition of a subject. Yeah. Any existing thing which engages in its subject. So it's very cool to think like that, right? If there's 3 ways to divide changing things: physical matter, mental stuff, and stuff that's not either physical, mental, it's the concept. Which one of those 3 would be a subject? The third one? Christine's saying the third one. The concept of that is Sharon is a subject.
Can you say mental?
Any existing thing. There are 3 ways to divide changing things: mental things, mental stuff, physical stuff, and things which are not either. Right? Like what's like the person, the idea of a person. Which one of those would you think would be a subject? Something that engages in an object. All 3 of them. It's kind of cool because that's true. It's true and it's not true. It's kind of like there's literal and there's figurative of this kind of list. Now, it's all 3 in a kind of a nominal sense, just for because let's say how can a physical thing be a subject? Let's use that as an example. How can a physical thing engage in an object?
My skin is a physical thing, and I'm touching with it, so
You're feeling with your skin, so
this
through
is an object of my
right.
skin.
through the consciousness of your skin, so through the skin faculty, right? Yeah, you could say the same thing. Your eye, right? They say the optic nerve, for instance, they say, right, collects the data first before it gets to the mind, which then labels it as something. So technically, you could say that physical matter is somehow engaging in an object. So that's, okay, sure. physical things can engage with an object. So a physical thing can be a subject. What about a mental thing?
Where does the mind stream fit into this?
The mind stream? Well, you're talking about the larger mind? Hold that thought. Yeah, I'll get there in just a second. What about a mental thing, like things like jealousy, afflictions, right? Can an affliction engage in an object? Yeah. Yeah. So a mental thing can also be a subject, right? This jealousy, like a mental function in your mind, like jealousy, engages you, right? Like, I want that thing, you know. And then how about the other one? The person, the concept, the idea of person. Can me, John, go engage in something? Can I go, buy a guitar? I hope so. So, from the sutrist point of view, in the Amidharma Kosha kind of view, they would say that all three of those things can be subject. But that doesn't really hold water right to the end, because what is the definition of an existing thing? Anything which is perceived by a valid perception. So, are you telling me that my optic nerve can have a valid perception? You see, so really, the only real subject is the mental, which brings us to Tanjit's question. The only real thing that can be a subject would be the mental, like jealousy or like something happening in the mind that would have a valid perception. Because what this implies is some kind of sentience in this definition. So in your homework, you'll get the right answer if you say physical things and mental things and those that are neither nor can all be subjects, and you get the answer right, and that's true up to a certain level. But when you start lodging it out, breaking it down, you understand, well, wait a minute, it's really only mental things, because in the mind stream, what's arising in the mind stream? The mind stream is making it all happen, right? So the mind stream is like, there's so many levels to it, it's ridiculous. But there's like the main mind or the mind stream, and then there's a smaller kind of mind with all its mental functions. And then there's this whole reality that's arising that is subsumed by the main mind, or by the mind stream, you could even say, if you want to put it that way. It's hard to have to use words, but it's a mind stream is also a concept, right? But we need it, right? Because we need to, because we're forced into being limited by conceptual linear time, we have to say mind stream in order to understand, 1 leads to 2 leads to 3, which is what allows us to comprehend, okay, I go to kindergarten, I learn my ABCs, I get to university, I can do algebra. It allows us to have that linear sense of hope. I'll take guitar lessons, I'll learn a few chords. 10 years later, I can move around on the guitar a bit. Mind stream is the same thing. The concept of mind stream is arising out of this grander mind that never really ever moves. So So there's so many levels to it that not really the class to talk about it, but that's what has valid perception. So like the valid perception of the concept John. So how can the concept John have a valid perception? Right? It's got to be something behind that. So it's so nice you brought that up at that point, because it segues into that, where ultimately, like really, really, it's like, okay, mental things can be a subject. Other two can't really be a subject, but just for understanding and logical purposes, we can say that the optic nerve engages with this object, and we can call it a subject, just to understand things. And it'll be on your homework, actually. That will be a homework question. And we're going to stop right there. Because we have, really tons to do in this class that we just, there's no way we'll get to it. So we'll pick up again on subjects next time. And we'll debate. Do some debating. It's 8:45. So, like before, anyone that needs to leave at 9, just go. Anybody wants to hang out and debate a bit longer, stay, whatever you feel like doing. Last time we had a bunch of fun doing crazy. Did you happen to be able to watch the last class, Tunji? No, but did you be able to watch the Ustream? Did you try? No. There's, if you get a chance to, I don't know if anybody can actually. Joyce couldn't watch it. Something about our Ustream thing that.
I have to get the password again.
Yeah. Anyways, but we had a really fun debate. It may be fun to watch. We had a really. Christine debated me, and then I debated a bunch of people. It was pretty rapid fire, and it was fun. And it just gives you an idea of where it can go. And all we were talking about was renunciation. It started out with renunciation. I went, renunciation. Someone said, let's debate renunciation. It just went all over the place. It was really cool. So, we're going to debate now. What are we going to debate? How shall we debate it? Does anyone feel ready for their own little debate partner yet? Are you still happy with staying in a group? Group is good right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do that. We'll form 2 lines, like before. The person in the couch can be the... Christine can destroy the place. Okay. All right. All right.
Okay.
Talk to you soon. Good luck tomorrow.
Yes, thank you.
What happens? What did you say, Tractor? Your mind stream? What?
They're only mind streams, but then mind streams are empty as well.
Everything's empty.
Everything's empty.
Everything's, well, depending on how you want to, we don't want to go down this road. But yeah, everything's empty of sin being self-existent.
When I think of empty and I think of projection,
Yep.
like I've got to relate it to my experience. So I think of
Yep.
it like a screen, like
Yep.
a projector, a
Yep.
screen.
Yep.
So for something to be empty, it's got to be something there that I can project onto.
Yeah, you're talking raw data.
Raw data.
Yeah, there's got to be something. There's got to
So
be not
emptiness is not nothing. Is it the same as nothing?
Emptiness is an absence of something. It's very tricky.
So
like
mind stream, so your mind stream exists,
Yeah.
mine exists. But I'm seeing your mind stream as this physical form.
Sure.
But you may not be. You may be something entirely different.
Exactly.
But then you're saying your mind stream is empty too.
It's well, there's 2 ways of talking about the emptiness, which we really only talk about the one for purpose. We talked about the other kind a long time ago. Actually, I don't want to right now.
Okay.
But the way that I experience my mind stream is empty of self nature, so it doesn't exist from its own side. That's all. Just like the block or like the screen. So, which allows it to change, which allows you to see me, the way you see me, I see you, because of the thing that isn't there. So the more that you think of something being empty as not having a quality of emptiness, but being empty of something that we're home. Yeah. And which doesn't mean that nothing exists, because there's something there with the mind. Yeah. It's the only thing that never always was and always will be. But, yeah.
So emptiness is a made thing.
Emptiness is. Oh, you want to debate that?
Okay.
All right. Who wants to defend? Who wants to defend? Carol's got a heavy one coming down the pipe. Emptiness is made thing. This is going to be good.
Oh no, it's not me.
You
I
see
did
it.
last time.
Yeah,
Okay, I can. Right.
Well, unless
Okay,
someone else.
okay, I can do it,
Does
sure.
Does somebody
All
else want to do it?
Yeah. Oh God. No, you
So
can't have me.
I get to be a trickster, I get to be a troublemaker.
You can be whatever it is that you desire. in
But
this
don't
situation.
be, don't be. No. No, I'm kidding. Oh God.
Stand right there.
Don't get me closer. All right.
So what you would do then is you would go down and
Yeah,
say,
here we go, here we go,
keep your
keep going
tuition,
up this.
and then just say emptiness.
I need this.
Tuition.
I like the way you say it. You say it so great. Is that how they pronounce it? Is that how they have that kind of?
They, I mean, I'm sort of mimicking Geshe Michael Roach.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah. And
It's gonna be for me.
I mean, to say like,
Consider emptiness. It is made. It is, what am I saying?
Okay, so
It's
just-
a made thing. It's a made thing.
okay, so let's just for technicality, just so
We
we,
can do
so
that.
what would be, because the tuition means, let's consider this subject, so it'd be like, the tuition, and then just say emptiness,
Emptiness.
and then stop, and you go back. Because you don't present your argument at that point, you just say,
I'm giving too
what you're
much.
saying is, let's consider emptiness. Then you're going to stand up and then you're going to volley in whatever it is you want to
Oh, okay, got it.
throw at it.
Right.
I'm supposed to say.
No,
No,
it's,
oh,
it's,
not
it's
me.
your ball. It's your
Emptiness.
your serve, Carol.
Emptiness is a made thing.
Sure.
Emptiness is not a made thing because it doesn't function.
Who said that?
You can't say that.
Sure she can. It's like talk about it. Like saying I didn't.
Emptiness.
Or cheat sheet, which is like, why? I didn't say that. Who said it? Like that. Like the same thing.
Okay. Who said that?
Yeah. Who said that? Why? She basically said what she could have said.
Emptiness. Emptiness doesn't exist. So I'm saying that emptiness doesn't exist. So you're saying that emptiness does exist. Emptiness exists because it is a made thing. So
Yeah, Kevin Lejeune. Reason doesn't follow.
You. Oh no. I can't do these negative things.
I know. That's right.
You make your reality.
Sure.
You will be enlightened.
Yes.
And you will make the emptiness that you see.
Oh, I see what you're going. No.
But emptiness. But you said you will be enlightened.
Yes.
And you make what you see. And you will see enlightened, and you will see emptiness.
No. Tough one. I don't necessarily make it.
That's it. That's you. You can.
No, you can't say
You
that.
don't have to explain yourself.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So, you're saying that when you see emptiness, so when you're saying that you don't see emptiness, someone else sees it.
Okay, so what you're saying, oh, cool. So someone else sees emptiness.
So someone else sees emptiness.
And then Chanjit
So
can.
someone else makes emptiness.
Coruscant.
So okay, so you can all the ones that are starred there on the top. Those are all your possible responses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Teacher.
Yeah. Why? Who said that? Who said that?
Yeah, I never said that.
You can see emptiness.
I can.
It's
see
not-
emptiness? Sure. Okay.
When you see emptiness, you are making up what you see.
No. I can just say no, right?
Yeah.
When you see emptiness, you're not making up what you see.
I'm not making what I see.
So you would have said yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Emptiness, however, what you see is all projection.
Yeah.
So even you see emptiness, you see a projection.
Yeah.
So you make it, you're making it. So what I'm hearing is that you make emptiness when you see it. Oh, hey. That's not part of it, eh?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I have to be sarcastic, right?
No, I'm going to say tough marker. I'm going to say that I can't make. Okay, I'm not
Just
going
say
to
talk about it. Talk about it.
tough marker.
Ta! You said you make what you see.
No, I never said that.
You said that.
I did not.
You did.
No squabbling now. For the record, she didn't. She didn't say that.
I can tell
Okay.
you what I'm thinking, but I don't
Okay.
say that.
Yeah.
When you see, what you understand is what you project. What you understand is what you project.
I don't know where you're going, but sure.
What you project is what your mind stream makes as understanding.
I'm lost, but okay.
Oh, what you see is your creation.
No.
Oh. So what you see is true, is self-existent.
No.
But what you see is your creation, is given existence by you. So what you see is self-existent.
No.
what you see is not self-existent. So what you see is not self-existent, therefore you create its existence. So what you see is not self-existent, and what you see is existent. Is self-existent, and what you see is not self-existent. Both? No. What you see is not existent on its own side. What you see is existent on your side. So what you see is existent on Christine's side. What you see is existent on God's side.
Okay, sure.
So God creates real existence. What you see is created by God. And God is a creator of all. And did Buddha state that there's no creator?
You can't ask her. You can't.
And Buddha stated that there is no creator. There is no beginning nor end. So, God did not create what you're seeing.
I don't know for sure.
And,
So here we have, like, we're venturing into, like,
different
I mean,
terms of reference.
Tanjeet may have a completely different idea of what about God than
Yes.
you do. Then you pull
Yes.
God in,
Yes.
and
Okay,
everything's
so
going
I'm
to go
assuming,
sideways.
okay, it's going to go
until
sideways. So I can't
Yeah.
bring God in. Okay, let's talk
you
about
can bring
this
God
later.
in if you can bring God in if you then define what God is, right? And then
Okay.
in one of
Well, God is a great creator of all. That's what I'm trying to say, right?
she disagrees.
Okay, so Buddha is wrong in stating that there is no creator. Our reality has no. Did Buddha state there is no beginning and no end?
Yeah.
There's no. So Buddha states then that there is no creator.
Okay, if you want to go down that road, sure.
Anybody can hit check
Did Buddha?
uh,
Is there?
Carol at any time
Yeah.
and take over if anybody wants to. Just it's part of it.
Buddha is not. Buddha is okay. How do I get this without being sensitive to this, right?
Sensitive to what?
To if a person is going to. This is so paradoxical. I don't know how. We don't have common ground then. How do we talk about this? I mean, I shouldn't have brought God in. Perhaps it gets its way late.
You can just drop it.
Let's drop the
You don't have,
drop
there's
God.
no
Okay.
there's
So-
no rhyme or reason to where you can just totally change the subject at any
Okay.
point in time and go on in a whole other tangent. There's no rules like that says you got to stay on a steady stream.
Tanjeet is unique. I am. Christine is unique.
Yes,
John is unique.
yes.
What you see is unique. What Christine sees is unique.
Yeah.
What you see is only what Tanjeet sees. Christine sees what you see. Christine sees me the same way as you see me.
Okay, I see where you're going. You can agree and disagree on so many different levels, right?
Oh yeah. It's remember, like, this is the point of this whole thing is not necessarily to get to any place that's where it has to add up to something, because you'll probably notice like whatever the debate you guys are having is forcing you guys and everyone else to like expand the mind,
Yes.
and that's the point.
It's bringing up
And that's
all
the
these
point.
great issues,
So
right?
it stretches your mind, and that's the
Yeah.
beauty of the
That's
debate.
what we're trying to do.
And
Yeah.
you started out with emptiness as a made thing,
Yeah.
and it went all these other directions, right?
Taranji, or Christine, as unique as she is, sees Mariska here, and sees something different. And when Christine, I'm really lost. Okay, I'm trying to link back now to emptiness. When Christine sees emptiness, it's the same emptiness as you will see.
Yeah.
So is emptiness is then self-existent?
It seems like it is, yeah.
Emptiness is a universal, self-existent entity.
Yes.
Sounds like it to me too. Emptiness is a made thing?
Emptiness is a made thing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Emptiness is a made thing.
So, yeah. So she can say, she doesn't, because you didn't give a reason, she doesn't have to say no or yes. She could say right now, why? And which would force you into giving her a reason. Because you're saying, emptiness is a made thing. And then if she says, who said that? And then you'd have to say, emptiness is a made thing because,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, who said that? Why,
Who said
right?
that? Yeah.
Emptiness is a made thing because you make up your, oh gosh, see, I'm contradicting myself, but I'm going back to the original thing. Emptiness is a made thing because you make up your world and you see emptiness. When you see emptiness, it's your projection.
So the trouble we're having here is you can't use a proof. You can't use a quality as a proof and a proof as quality. So you're saying we run in circles if you say emptiness is a made thing because you made it, right? Emptiness is a made thing because you made what you see. You're saying what you're using is you're taking the quality made. That's like saying sound is a changing thing because it changes, or sound is a changing thing because it's sound. Just so that's why it gets a little bit hard to navigate if you're saying emptiness is a made thing because you make your reality. It makes it hard for the mind to go anywhere. So you have to come up with a more distinct proof other than because you make your reality like that.
How would you bring what you said prior, like if Christine sees emptiness and I see it, and it's the same thing, and you said, so it's a self-existent entity, and I agreed with you. How would you bring that together then?
Okay, let's do that. Okay, that sounds.
How would you bring that together?
Well,
So emptiness is existence. Existence is existence. Therefore, oh gosh, that's a tough one. Okay, not very hard to do that. Got any thoughts? It's okay. Okay, so
well, Chinese got to go.
yeah.
So can we wrap this up to get to something?
Maybe. Depends. Where do you want to get to?
I want to get to.
What do you want to bring together?
What I want to bring together is, so there's the concept of we're both going to experience something, and then there's what you're saying, this is my projection. So at some point, my projection becomes clean enough or aware enough to see that perhaps self-existent entity that we said is emptiness. Is that how the two can merge together
Well,
as two concepts?
well, the thing is where we were like, because you agreed that emptiness was self-existent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
And the reason I agreed was because you said your perception is going to be the same. And
Right.
that's what I'm learning from these courses.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just like, okay, emptiness, the emptiness that I see and the emptiness that Christine sees is the same.
Yeah.
So because the emptiness that I see and the emptiness that Christine sees is the same, that means that emptiness is self-existent.
Yeah.
So you agree that
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right.
You've separated them out.
Yeah. So then he was like, you gotta take it from there. And then you could say, then it would, then it would be like, do you agree with that statement? The emptiness that I see and the emptiness that Christine sees are the same. And that is the reason why emptiness is self-existent.
Probably not. But I don't understand the courses enough and the
That's okay.
concept enough to.
Yeah, that's the whole. You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
None of us are supposed to
Yeah.
be doing this because we know the answer.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be doing this because we're trying to explore.
What I understand from this is there is something that is emptiness. It's not me that creates it. I get to a point in my evolution where that becomes uncovered, so I see it, and not necessarily that I make it.
Okay, well you say like emptiness. Yeah. Okay, well, to be continued.
Good.
Yeah.
This is exactly where I was. Like I was like, oh my god, I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's where I was last week.
Yeah.
Like, and that's good because I go, well, yeah, you know.
That's a great, very, very intriguing. Very intriguing.
To be continued. Does anybody want to keep debating, or should we wrap it up? We finished. Okay, let's.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Angie.
Thank you.
We'll just do it as you're making your exit. We'll do a little dedication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Christine, you want to lead us through a dedication?
May all beings, by our actions of coming to class and studying subjects and objects, the mind, emptiness, may all beings achieve, reach, not reach, ultimate happiness. And end all suffering.
Oh my. Thank you. All right. You survived another one.
Yeah. So I think good homework would be to check out how these statements are made. You can't. Because I'm very seduced by the kind of statement you said I couldn't do. It's true because this is A is B because of B, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I want to do that. I love that one, but you can't do that.
It's like I was saying, having the definition of cause in the answer, cause.
Yeah.
Having the word cause,
Yeah. So.
Like, it's a cause because it's cause.
Yeah.